Be'ez Hashem Yisboch, we begin Perek Revi, the fourth chapter in the Rambam's Hilchos Tefillin, the laws of Tefillin, the Sefer in the book of love, which we continue the theme regarding the halachas of Tefillin, in this Perek we discussed regarding the putting on of the Tefillin. As Rambam gets halacha alpha regarding where's the place where it's put on. Heichen manichin Tefillin sharesh, where do you put on the Tefillin of the head? Manichin noisen al hakadkod, so you put it on the skull, shu seif haser, but where the hair ends, shekeneged upon, which is opposite where the face is. But that's the place where the brain of the child pulsates over there, the fontanelle. Moreover, it has to be that the tefillin should be in the middle, meaning from the right and the left. There should be between the eyes. So it doesn't literally mean between the eyes, but on the top, in that area between the eyes. The kasher and the knot of the strap of the tefillin sharesh, which is made like a dalid, as we discussed in the previous parak, should be from the height of the neck, which should actually be opposite the face, not lower down on the neck, which is shuhusef al-gogos, which that's the end of the skull. Regarding the tefillin shal yad, kosher oisa al smoile. So he ties it onto his left hand, alikiboris on his bicep, on the muscle. This is the flesh that's inflated on the arm. Should be in perek hakosef, between the joint of the shoulder, and the joint of the bottom of the arm, which is the elbow. So when he's going to connect his arm to his ribs, he's going to put his hands down. His tefillin is going to be opposite where his heart is. So it comes out, he feels literally the pasuk. These words of the parashas Hashema should be on your heart. Literally, the tefillin is going to be on his heart. Now, if someone puts tefillin of the hand on the palm of his hand, like the literal translation, or the tefillin of his head on his forehead, which is literally between his eyes, that's like the Sadducees, that they denied the oral law and they just translate it literally. Moreover, if someone makes his tefillin around like a nut, sakana, some have the girsa, it's dangerous, and because it goes straight into him, because there's a point. There's no mitzvah there at all. Iter, someone that's left-handed, puts tefillin on his right hand, it's quote unquote his left hand. It's not literally the left versus the right, it's the weaker hand, which for most people is left. For him, it's his right hand. Now, if he was dominant in both hands, and ambidextrous, then puts on his left hand, which is the left of every single person. Now, the place of where one ties on the tefillin, which is by the shalyad, is when you tie it. The place of where you place them, which is by the shalreish, was learned out from tradition. Regarding the blessing and the order of how you put it on, tefillin shalreish in the tefillin shalreish does not hold back the validity of the shalyad. The shalyad in makav shalreish, the shalyad does not hold back the validity of the shalreish. They change the mitzvahs because these are two independent mitzvahs. Zulasma, each one on its own. Now, the kids mavarchim, how do you make the blessing? Sha'al shalreish mavarch. The Rambam is putting shalreish before the shalyad because of its sanctity, but the truth is you first put on the shalyad, then the shalreish. But on the tefillin shalreish, you make the bracha hasheket deshana b'mitzvah b'tzvon that he sanctified us with his commandments. He commanded us al b'tzvon al mitzvah tefillin, the mitzvah of tefillin. But shalyad mavarch and tefillin shalyad, he makes the bracha hasheket deshana b'mitzvah that he sanctified us with his mitzvahs tzvon l'niach tefillin, commanded us to put on tefillin. When we say this, that you make a bracha on the shalreish on mitzvahs tefillin, k'sheniach achas, that's when you're putting on only one of them. Let's say you only have the tefillin shalreish. But if you're putting on both tefillin, then mavarch bracha achas, then you only make one blessing. And that is lahanech tefillin, to place tefillin. V'kosher shalyad, and you tie on the tefillin shalyad, v'achkach menech shalreish, and then you place the tefillin shalreish. When he takes it off, he first takes off the shalreish, and then he takes off the shalyad. And the reason that is because it says when it's beinei necha, between your eyes, meaning the shalreish should be teitavis, the plural, they both should be on. So therefore you shouldn't take off the shalyad, because then you will only have one, which will be beinei necha. Halach above. Misha beidech lo nich tefillin. Someone make the bracha to put on the tefillin. V'kasher tefillin shalyad, and he ties on the tefillin of the arm. Asla sapi is not allowed to talk. V'avila hashav shal Rabbi, even to respond the greeting of his teacher until he puts on the tefillin sharesh. If he speaks, how does aver? It's a sin. Now he has to make a second blessing on mitzvah tefillin, the bracha of mitzvah tefillin that we said in halacha daled. V'akach menich sharesh, and then he puts on the tefillin sharesh. Halacha zayin. Tefillin calls mancha menichan, as long as every time that you put them on, you make a bracha on them. Even if he takes it off and puts it back on many times during the daytime, every time you put it on, you make a bracha. Now all mitzvahs, you make the blessing, and then before you perform them. Therefore, you have to make a bracha on the tefillin of the arm. After you put on the bicep, before you tie it, because the tying is the performing of the mitzvah, and therefore you do it, make the bracha before you perform it. When the person takes off his tefillin, to put away in the container, in his bottle, in his bag, he shouldn't put it away that the tefillin shel yad is on the bottom and tefillin shel resh is on the top, which one would think, okay, the kedusha shel resh is great, you put it on the top. No, the reason is because let's think about the future. The next time they should be shoshu, when he's going to want to put them on, yivka b'shel resh tchila. So he's going to take out, and the thing on the top, the first thing he's going to counter is the shel resh. V'nimtza shemanicha, it's going to come out, he's leaving it. He's going to put it down, he's going to take out the tefillin shel yad, because you don't put on the tefillin shel resh before you put on the tefillin shel yad. First goes, you put on the ukshat moisadecha, then necha. Now the problem is, you're not allowed to put away a mitzvah, and to pass it to go to another mitzvah. Rather, when you have a mitzvah comes to your hand, shall adam to a person the first thing that he gets to, that's what he actually engage himself. So that's a problem. So the figure rather what you do is you put tefillin shel yad on the top, that will be the first thing that you'll encounter. Then you put on the order and you won't run into the problem of being maver ala mitzvahs. Look at test regarding the sanctity of the tefillin. Regarding a bag of a container that was prepared to store one's tefillin inside of it. And the tefillin already put inside of it. So in the Kaddish it's sanctified. Now you utilize that container for mundane things. Now, but let's say it was prepared, but you never put the tefillin inside of it. Or let's say temporarily the tefillin were put into it, but it wasn't prepared and designated for that purpose. So the Kaddish is not sanctified, it's mundane as it was. And because it's only if it both, it was prepared and utilized. Moreover, us little says tefillin, one's not allowed to hang tefillin, whether from the straps, whether from the tefillin itself. But you're allowed to hang this container that we spoke about, that the tefillin are inside of it, that you could hang that container. Regarding the time of when tefillin is put on. Zman hanachas tefillin, the time of putting on tefillin by yoyim is by daytime, not at nighttime. Like it says in the pasuk in Shemos, you shall safeguard this statute for its designated time, from day to day. So it says by the daytime. Because when it says this statute, he misses tefillin is referring to mitzvah tefillin, which is mentioned in the previous pasuk. Shabbos and Yom Tov is also not a time of putting on tefillin. Like it says in the pasuk, it should be for you a sign. Now, Shabbos and Yom Tov are themselves a sign. We don't need the sign of tefillin. Now, from when is the time of, when does it start, the time of putting on tefillin? You'll see your friend at a distance of 4 amos and you'll recognize him. That's already enough daylight to put on tefillin until the sun sets. Now, if someone had already put on tefillin before the sun sets, now it becomes dark. Even though it's on all night long, mutter, that's permitted. You just can't put it on at nighttime. But you don't rule such a halacha in public. Rather, you teach everyone they should not be having tefillin on them at nighttime. They should move it from themselves once the sun sets, because we're afraid people might forget and sleep in them, and that's forbidden, as we're going to explain later on. Whoever initially puts on tefillin after the sun already sets, violates negative prohibition. Because it's in the pasuk we mentioned before, b'shamarta, used its term as a license of safeguarding it. Hishamer connotes a negative prohibition. From day to day, and you're doing by nighttime, you're violating this negative prohibition. If someone was coming on the road, he has tefillin on his head, and the sun sets, it's already night, but he's on the road. Or some have this one halacha, 2 halachas, and the day becomes sanctified, it's Friday night, it becomes Shabbos. So where you're also not supposed to wear tefillin. He puts his hand on them until he gets to his house and he can take it off. So he covers it so that people shouldn't see. But he can't take it off. Because he's traveling. If you're sitting in the Beis HaMedrash and tefillin was on his head, and it becomes Friday night, if he's going to leave it in the Beis HaMedrash, he's going to get lost, he's going to get ruined. So again, he puts his hand on them until he gets to his house, and then he takes it off. Now, if let's say there's a house near the walls of the city that it could be safeguarded because their Beis HaMedrash was out of the city walls, if it comes to a place that it could be safeguarded, so you leave it over there, you don't go all the way to the home. Now, if someone does not take over his tefillin from when the sun sets, because he didn't have a place to safeguard them, and the reason why it's on is to protect him, then that's going to be even initially permitted, and one would even instruct someone to do like that. Halacha Gimel regarding the person's settling of his mind and the safeguarding of the body when he's wearing the tefillin. So Kol Patim Kriyishma, whoever's exempt from saying the Shema, Patim Tefillin is exempt from putting on tefillin. Now, Katan Sheyadei Lishma Tefillov. If a child knows how to safeguard his tefillin, his father buys him tefillin, Kedei L'chancha b'mitzvahs to train him in mitzvahs. Chol Miyayim, someone who has intestinal illness, or whoever cannot safeguard his orifices, his excretory system, his digestive system, only with great difficulty, Patim Tefillin is exempt from tefillin. Now, however, all those who are richly impure, they're obligated to tefillin just like pure people. But mitzvah, someone who's in pain, or someone that he's not able to think clearly, he's not settled in his consciousness, Patim Tefillin is exempt from tefillin. The reason for that is because whoever's putting on tefillin is forbidden to be distracted, to remove his consciousness from the tefillin. And all these things will detract because a person is not in a comfortable state. Come during the avodah of the service in the Beis Hamikdash, when they were saying the song on the platform, and the Yisraelim, which they have their own mishmeres of mothers when they stand over within the Beis Hamikdash. Paturim and tefillin, they're exempt from davening and for putting on tefillin because they're engaged in the mitzvah. So that's the mitzvah is patim in the mitzvah. Person has to always be constantly touching and engaging with the tefillin as long as they're on him. Said that he should not remove his thoughts from them even for one moment. Because their sanctity is greater than the sanctity of the tzitz, which is the plate that the Kohen Gadol wore on his forehead. Because tzitz only has one name of Hashem. It has Kodesh Lashem. It has one time the name of Hashem. And these tefillin yeshbem echad ve'esem mishem shel yud kei b'shel reish u'kameis mishal yad. They had 21 names of God and of Yud Kei Vav Kei in the Tefillin Shal Reish, and the same equivalent in the Tefillin Shal Yad. Halach Tezvav, Tefillin Tzrichen Guf Nakid. Tefillin need a clean body. Shezar, the one should be careful. Shleitetz Min Ruach Mamata. He shouldn't pass gas from the bottom of him. Kosmache in all of as long as they're on him. Lefikach therefore Aslishim. I mean, I'll sleep with the Tefillin. Leishin is Kvav, Leishin is Aray. Not a permanent sleep, not a temporary nap, because of the concern that he might pass gas when he's sleeping. Only if he puts a kerchief, a cloth on top of them, which that'll remind him when it's on his head to be careful. And more of a v'lohisa ima isha, and only if his wife is not with him, because if his wife is with him, we're concerned it might be intimate, which would be degrading for the tefillin. Then Yoshem and Shinas Aray, then he could take a small nap with the tefillin, because such a small amount of time we're not really concerned that he's going to pass gas. Now, so what should he do that he should make sure that he doesn't fall into a deep sleep, which that would be problematic? Sleep by putting your head between your knees. When he sits and he sleeps, that person generally will not fall into a regular sleep that way. If his tefillin were wrapped on his hand, meaning he removes it from his arm and he wraps it around his hand in a way so now you're not concerned that it's going to fall out of him, let's say when he's sleeping, but at the same time he's not wearing it in the halacha of tefillin, then he's allowed to sleep with them. Even a permanent sleep, because once he removes it from his head, it doesn't have the sanctity and he doesn't have to have a clean body. Now, but if he's going to eat, he should only eat like a snack. But if he's going to a full-fledged meal, then he should take it off because he might become intoxicated in the meal and be disgracing his tefillin, even though it's not like he's wearing it, but he has it on him. Rather, then he should take it totally off, and he should put it on his table until he washes his hands at the end of the meal, and then he should put them back on, and he makes the blessing on this food by Berchas Hamazon, while he's wearing his tefillin after the meal. Look, it's done regarding in a bathroom and regarding a bathhouse. If someone's wearing tefillin, he has to go to the lavatory, he has to use the restroom. You should not put the tefillin in the cracks of the outer wall that's close to the public domain and then enter into the bathroom, because passerbys might take the tefillin from there. So what should he do? Even if he has to urinate, even just urinating, he has to take up his tefillin at a distance of 4 amas from the bathroom. Then he wraps it in his garment like a Sefer Torah. And he holds it on his right side, opposite his heart. He should be careful. He has to make sure that the straps of the tefillin don't come out a handbreadth from where it's wrapped on by his chest, because that has sanctity and would be degrading that it should be seen in the bathroom. And then he goes in, he takes care of his bodily needs. When he comes out, first he has to distance himself 4 amas from the bathroom, and then he puts it on. Again, there's all talking about in the bathroom in the fields where he's afraid to put it because of passerby, not obviously if you have somewhere to put it in the house. But when we say this, that a person could go with him into the bathroom to urinate, is the basic kizah kavua, is in an established bathroom. Where if he's going to urinate, the droplets are not going to spray on him, because presumably they make a place where the excrement and the urine could go in. A basic kizah right, but a temporary bathroom, he should not go in to the bathroom when he has them wrapped up, as we described before, because the droplets are going to spray on his feet, and he has to wipe them off so that people shouldn't say that, oh, he doesn't know he's not able to have children because you see that it just drips on him, and you're not allowed to wipe it when he has his tefillin on his hand, because that would be disgraceful. In that situation, he has to take it off, and he has to give it to his friend to watch them. Now, in general, the urine doesn't get depleted from the body without droplets spraying on him. Even in a regular bathroom, it'll be shiva only if he's sitting. But if it was soft earth, then even standing, it's going to get absorbed into the ground, not going to bounce back and spray on him. Now, let's say he was in a place where the ground is hard, so Yamad Makam Midran needs to stand on the incline, so that this droplet should not spray on him, it'll go downwards and away from him. If someone was wearing tefillin, he needed to use the bathroom by the evening time. Now, it's getting close to nighttime. Now, there's no more time left from the daytime. He's going to want to put back the tefillin on after it comes out. It's going to be 2 days. It's going to really be nighttime. So in that situation, he's not allowed to go in when it's wrapped in his garments. Even to urinate in a permanent bathroom, which there we said that there's no concern about droplets, we're still concerned that maybe he's going to defecate and relieve himself. What should he do? You're not putting it back on anyway. There's no more time. Rather, you take them off, you put it in the container. So that's a moya by tefach. If it had a handbreadth of airspace, where then the vessel is considered as a oil to interrupt between the tefillin and the bathroom. Or if let's say it's a container that's not the designated container for the tefillin, then even if it does not have a handbreadth of airspace, it's not designated to the tefillin, it's not secondary to it, and therefore will be an interposition. And then you hold the container in your hand, and then you go in. Let's say you need to use the restroom at nighttime, and you're concerned to take them off and leave them outside so that it shouldn't get stolen. No problem. Take them off, put them into the container, and hold the container in your hand and go in. Now, if someone forgot and he went to the bathroom, and he's wearing his tefillin, he puts his hand on the tefillin until the first pillar comes out, and then he goes out, takes them off, and then he comes back in and finishes up what he had to take care of. Because if he's going to stop in the middle of the first emission, whether it be for the excretory system, whether it be urinating or whether he's defecating, if he's going to stop in the middle, it can bring to illnesses that can be very dangerous, and therefore one should not stop in the middle. Let's say someone forgot and he was having marital intimacy with his tefillin. So he shouldn't touch, shouldn't grab a hold of not the straps, not the container of the tefillin, meaning not the batim, not the actual tefillin itself, until he first washes his hands and then he takes them. Because his hands are considered busy and maybe it touched a filthy place and wouldn't be appropriate to touch a tefillin that way. If someone goes into a bathhouse, so it depends where in the bathhouse. There were 3 different types of areas in the bathhouse. In the area where people are all dressed, the most outermost room. So even put on tefillin over there. Now, regarding the middle room, where some people are dressed there and some people are undressed over there, so there you don't have to take off the tefillin, but there you cannot initially put on the tefillin. Now, the innermost room, the place where people stand undressed, you have to take off the tefillin, and I don't have to say that you're not put it on over there. Regarding situations of tumah, erva, loads, tashmish. A person should not go in the cemetery having tefillin on his head, because it's what's called loigluresh. It's scorning the paupers, meaning the ones who passed away. They cannot perform mitzvahs anymore. It's mocking them. So you shouldn't be wearing tefillin in the cemetery, even with the 4 amas of just one dead person, or with the 4 amas of just one grave. So you have to take off your tefillin until you're 4 amas away. A person also should not put on tefillin until he covers his nakedness, then he puts on his garments. So if someone's carrying a load on his head, he has to take off the tefillin of the head until it takes off the load from his head. Even just a cloth, one's not allowed to put on his head as a load that he's wearing tefillin on. But he could put on his hat that's on his tefillin because that's not for a load. That's article of clothing. That's not disgraceful. But even a cloth, if it's a load, if it's something that he's carrying, that is forbidden. A room that has tefillin, like Sefer Torah or Torah scroll, he's not allowed to have marital intimacy until he first takes it out of the room. Or he puts it into a vessel, and then he puts that vessel into another vessel that's not a designated vessel for that Sefer Torah, the tefillin. But if that second vessel was designated, was meant where you always put your tefillin in, even if it's 10 vessels, they're all considered as one and wouldn't be sufficient. Now, if you put the vessel inside another vessel, then you're allowed to put the tefillin beneath his head, being between the cushion and the bed. If it's not opposite directly his head, if he's doing it to protect it, even if his wife is with him in the bed. Regarding the understanding of putting on of tefillin, what state the person is in. Kedusha's tefillin, the sanctity of tefillin, kedushas and gedolhi, its sanctity is very great. Because at a time when the tefillin is in the head of a person and on his arm, he's humble and he's fearing of heaven. And he's not drawn to laughter, and frivolous chatter. He's not thinking bad thoughts. Rather, he's clearing his heart to the words of truth and of justice. Therefore, a person should definitely attempt that it should be on him all day. Because that's what the mitzvah is for. They said regarding the Amoyer Rav, Tamidish Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the student of our holy teacher Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, all his days they never saw him that he should be walking 4 amas without learning Torah, without tzitzis, or without tefillin. Even though its mitzvah is to wear it all day, but during davening is more than everything else. Which the sages said, whoever recites the Shema without wearing tefillin, it's as if he's saying false testimony on himself, because in the parasha of Shema we say and he's not wearing it. Whoever does not put on tefillin violates 8 positive commandments. Because in the 4 parashas, is commanded on the tefillin of the resh and tefillin shayad. So you take the 4 times 2 is 8. Now, whoever is habituated with the mitzvah of tefillin, has lengthy days. Says the pasuk in Yeshaya, Hashem aleim yicha, Hashem is on them, they will live. Which that's the parashas of that's in the tefillin. It has the names of Hashem, and therefore the person will live.